minutes of questioning, and I must say that much of your testimony, Mr. Osterbom, is troubling indeed, but we hope it's not indicative of, and we don't think it is indicative of, the vast majority of TSOs and employees at the TSA, but it does show the egregiousness of some of the infractions that concern all of us here, and we must do absolutely everything we can to make sure that they are dealt with correctly, judiciously, speedily, and that they're minimized. With that, Dr. Goida, the workforce, there's nearly 60,000 employees, right, at the TSA, 450 airports, and we're talking about a workforce that allegedly, there's alleged committed misconduct of almost half the numbers of those employees, nearly 27,000. Now, they're allegations, grant you, they're allegations, but you know, a lot of folks, and myself included, you know, we kind of believe that where there's smoke, there's fire, right? You know, and then you have the case where 14, 16, and 18 allegations on one or more employees. In fact, 1,270 employees have had 5 or more misconduct allegations filed against them. And I just wonder, in a general sense, I don't know what your private sector experience is. You're obviously a person of high intellect, well accomplished. But it seems to me, when I read the report, that there should be one person at the top of TSA's human capital, their HR department. And of course, there's a series of direct reports, whether it's somebody that deals with investigations or benefits and so on and so forth, and that cascades down through 60,000 employees, so that there's a chain of command and that there is accountability. At some point, the buck stops somewhere. I don't see that. I'm wondering, I know you've been on the job for 2 months, and we appreciate you being here, but like I said, you're a person of high intellect, so we have high expectations of you. Does that seem incongruent with common sense, the rest of the real world, or does that seem that somehow that it's appropriate for TSA to have this structure of a non-structure, if you will?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Perry, and I would like to thank you for acknowledging that the large numbers are allegations, not substantiated cases of misconduct. I think that's an important distinction, and I appreciate you making it. Now, as I mentioned in my opening statement, the administrator and I are responsible for our entire workforce, but every employee is responsible for his or her own conduct and performance. When it comes to allegations of misconduct or even attendance and leave issues, performance issues, it is important that we have a set of people who investigate the allegation, a set of people who will adjudicate the findings, and then a set of people who will implement the recommended discipline and penalties. Of course, all of that does not preclude us from having a central focal point for the implementation of policies, for making sure that there is consistent application of those policies, affording oversight of that role across the enterprise. And you will be heartened to know that the administrator has actually asked me to take a look at human capital management on an enterprise-wide basis. One of the first steps we will take in that regard will happen very shortly here. We will be bringing together the management of the human capital of all our workforce under the Office of the Human Capital Officer. So we are beginning to take steps much in concert with what you just mentioned.
I'm glad that you are, and we will look forward. We'll try and establish some timeline post this hearing directly with dialogue to determine when we can get together again and see what that looks like, because I think we're very interested to know how what the solution set that you gleaned from that is. But I want to move on a little bit and just drill down on this multiple infractions problem. Our investigation found that some employees had over a dozen allegations of misconduct. For the egregious repeat offenders, what do you know about them? What positions do they hold or did they hold? What types of misconduct are they allegedly involved with? What risk do they pose to, regarding insider threats? I mean, this is a great concern to the flying public. We want to know these things. And so what can you tell us about, who's looking into these things and so on and so forth about these repeat offenders, so to speak?
Chairman Perry, when it comes to the repeat offenders, I do not have all the details in the individual cases. What I will tell you is with every allegation, the totality of your service is considered in meting out the discipline or the penalty. As I mentioned earlier, we are bringing a lot of this to a centralized location. All the data that we now collect, we will be able to mine, look for trends, look for opportunities to improve, opportunities to provide remedial training, et cetera. And certainly, we will work with you, as you requested, to share with you what we're finding and what we intend to do to make it so that we do manage our entire workforce to the high standards that you expect of us.
Dr. Guida, my time has expired, and I think we'll do at least one more round, but I think you would be interested to know that the data that you're talking about, it's my understanding that the department really didn't know much about the data, even though they collect the data, until our team went in and started asking questions. They weren't really aware of using the data, so to speak, in judicial actions and in punishments and so on and so forth. And so that's a great concern as well. But with that, I want to recognize other members as well. So I'll recognize Ms. White.